Hello, hello, hello. Let me know if everything works. I should, I think, because I didn't change anything. Same setup every week. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing all right. Henry says good morning. Not really good morning for me. It's actually pretty late, not late in the evening, but it's a little bit late, but we'll make do. I'm a little bit tired, so I'll try to be energetic, but I cannot promise anything because didn't really sleep too much last night. Good morning from Australia. Good morning to you, my friend. Doom or gloom today? I'll be a little bit more gloomy. Wait, doom or gloom? I mean, that's both negative now. That actually took me a second. I was like, wait. It's not doom, but I am gonna be a little bit gloomy for various reasons that we're gonna talk about. But I'm not too bearish. But there's a few reasons to be concerned for me anyway. But that could just be me fudding the range low. So we will talk about all of it and more in a bit. Evening from Bulgaria. Have a good one. Right back to you, my friend. Right back to you. So yeah, before we start the show, big shout out to FTX. They sponsor us and they've been amazing to work with. And on top of that, they have the best mobile trading app in crypto or like in general, really, in my opinion. So if you do any of that sort of stuff, you should go check them out. Their link is in the description. So yeah, big thank you to them. And yeah, let's get on with the show. Connor says Bitcoin looks like it might do something now. Honestly, it kind of looks like it doesn't want to do anything, but it's already done that for a couple of months. So maybe we get lucky. High time frame wise first, I'll just quickly run through stuff and then we can do like a Q&A kind of thing. So if you want to think of questions that you want me to answer, I'll do that in like 15-20 minutes, so you have plenty of time. But yeah, high time frame wise, Bitcoin closed below the cycle high. Now it's not really like this is always just a line and then you close like $100 below and it's like, okay, everything is fucked. But this is not a good, like this is a little bit worrisome, right? Because you want to have these kind of important levels either front ran or you want to have them work as support. You don't necessarily want to have this, right? This is not a good look. It's not the worst in the world. It's still like an area of support on the monthly and on the weekly, but it's showing that people are a little bit afraid to bid it. Still support, like I said, so no reason to panic, but it's a level that I'm going to be looking at. So like how price behaves around 20.2K, which is pretty much exactly where we are right now. That's the open of last month. And yeah, last month could have been pretty nice because it actually closed on top of that support, but it couldn't materialize any sort of bounce. And we closed below it, right? So not the best of signs, not the worst. It's just like one thing to add to worry about, basically. It's not like if you're bearish because of this, I think that's wrong. I think there's better reasons to be bearish, but it's a thing to worry about, at least for me, right? So that's the monthly on Bitcoin. If we kind of get any sort of, I think there's like a momentum play to be made. I'm just not sure if it's gonna materialize on the monthly because like if you get a momentum play on the monthly, there's a good chance like that the candle just closes like this. But if we close above 23.3K, the highest monthly close here in this range, I think there's a good chance that we're gonna run up towards 35K. So like there is a momentum play there. It's just I'm not gonna agree for these 10%. I'd much rather wait for like 20K to turn into support and previous cycle highs to turn into support. Right now they're resistance, right? And you can see this also on the lower time frames. If you look at the daily, we've been selling off pretty much exactly in this area the entire time. It's the cycle highs are resistance, and that's not a good look. So Monthly is kind of meh, leaning on the bearish side. Obviously, like whenever you have a bearish move and then you get sideways, you would have to expect that this is bearish consolidation, especially if there's no big kind of wipe. Well, we had a wipe, right? But basically what happened is we had like a leverage wipe, and in general, Three Arrows Capital got liquidated, then we had a bounce, and then we went like this. So it's not really anything particularly too interesting. So I'm on the higher time frames, I'm just kind of like, okay, there's nothing there. There could be something there pretty soon if we close above 23, but so far pretty boring. On the weekly, right? It's an interesting time frame. I've been talking about this resistance here, 20.9k average, quite a while, and it's been acting as resistance. And honestly, I want to see us close above there. That would, one, like if you kind of paint this in as well, the cycle high, it's roughly there. That kind of coincides with that resistance, right? So cycle high of like 20k-ish, same area as resistance, like same resistance basically as this one. So I want to see us close above there, and then we can talk about bullish momentum and like a bullish move. Right now, but there's just not that much there, right? We bounced from support, which is good, right? This support holding is important. It's just, it's been tested 3 times, so not the biggest fan of it anymore either. Like my gut feeling is that we should be going up, but my TA says to be very careful. And whenever I have that, right, like whenever I'm kind of wondering, okay, is my TA right or is my gut feeling right? I just stay out. Unless I have like a really, really strong gut feeling. And right now it's just kind of like a feeling of, okay, we could go up. But I just don't have good enough of a setup. So just not gonna trade it really. Which sucks to say, obviously, right? Like people wanna hear, okay, I'm long or I'm short. But for me, there's no trade here. If you're shorting 20k, which is like a famous level of support, basically, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. But if you're longing a level that's been tested 4 times already, it's also not really the greatest, right? So this is a weird situation where both trades kind of suck, like both sides of the trade. And yeah, when that's the case, there's no trade to be had for me anyway. Leonhard says, like the video, please. I mean, I'm down for that. If you want to do that, obviously always welcome. Doesn't cost anything. Damn, still sponsored by FTX after what Cred says. Cred says a lot of things, and FTX are good with humor. So, yes. So that's that. Like we have a meh monthly, right? We have a meh weekly. We're bouncing from support, but we're running into resistance. Above there, nice. Same with the monthly, right? If you remember back, above 23k, nice. Same here. Above like 21k, starts looking much better. Above 24, this is where the structure starts looking much better, right? Because then you break a previous high, make a higher high, that will look good. Anything below there, it's just like not that nice. And then on the lower time frames, right, as the daily, we have a little bit of bounce and we have a little bit of momentum, but it's from a level that we've been testing over and over and over and over again. So if you bought it, cool, but yeah, you cannot get me excited about this. It's just, you cannot. I'd much rather like sit out because I don't trust the support level. So if I bought it, I would feel like I want to sell at every kind of moment. So I'm much more interested in price action above 22k rather than anywhere in this range. This range is an old one, and at some point, like if it's a range that's done this, at some point you're just like, okay, this has done enough, and I just don't want to trade it anymore. So for me, Bitcoin's just on all time frames, not a trade. And this actually just kind of goes over into the view of my altcoins, right? When Bitcoin's this dicey, I'm more inclined to not risk it. Now, I have been trading altcoins, right? And the reason has been because like Bitcoin has been the same. Like this Bitcoin has been looking like this for a couple of weeks now. But I felt comfortable enough to trade the altcoins because we had the S&P at support, right? And if you look at the S&P right now, high time frame, right? We set a high, we broke support, and ever since then, it's been very, very technical, right? So like this is the obvious support here. If you look back, we broke this, went to support, went to resistance, broke the support, went to resistance, broke the support, went to resistance, right? So this has been very, very technical. It's just from looking at it. And I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be bullish into that resistance, right? It's one of the best levels we have on the monthly. You can go higher time frame, right, on the quarterly, and then this isn't really the level to look at. Let's see. Let's just do this. Let's do this. Everything else, whatever. I don't really look at them quarterly too much, but I'll make it quick so that it makes sense what I'm talking about. So the quarterly also interesting, right? And there, like we have high time frame support around like 3.2k, and that's still a little bit to go. So this just looks like a correction on the quarterly, and it feels like it should be going to support before doing anything meaningful bounce wise. So just like this is resistance, and you're not gonna get me to risk too much while the S&P is at resistance. And the reason why I'm looking at the S&P obviously is because we've been correlated with it. Bitcoin's been doing pretty much exactly what the S&P has been doing, just weaker. And when you have that, and you're not entirely sure about Bitcoin, and you have the S&P breaking supports and retesting them as resistance, it's time to just be like giving it some time. I think like the Duma posting was a bit much in the last few days, but it's still technical resistance. Don, he's our man. If he can't punt it, no one can. I mean, I think there's a punt to be had. It's just I don't feel too comfortable. And honestly, I've got better things to do rather than sit here and worry about my position constantly. Because if you take a position here, you have to monitor it. You have to kind of trade around it. And I really don't want to do that. So if I was 24/7 at the computer, I could still trade this. Like I said, my gut feelings, like a little bit on the bullish side, has been for a little bit ever basically since we opened Monday on the S&P pretty well, right? We had like a pretty good day on the S&P. I was like, okay, this is gonna go over into crypto, but the question is how long is that gonna stay, right? So we had 2 good days on the S&P, and you look at Bitcoin, you had 2 good days on Bitcoin. It's just very, very correlated. And the Bitcoin has been a little bit stronger than it has been in the past, right? So like the S&P broke support. You can see this very clearly on the low time frames. You have a low here and you broke it. On Bitcoin, there was not really a low to be broken, right? So this is still like okay, but like I said, it's just nothing to write home about. And the same is true for ETH. You look at the monthly close is below previous cycle high. Looks like it's going to be resistance. So 1.4K going to be an interesting area on the monthly, which is very, very close by. So there's no business to be done, because even if you trade it to that resistance, is that really going to be worth it, right? Is that 6% really going to be worth it after it's broken support? For me, the answer is no, which I hate to say, but yeah. And like on the short side, I don't like it either, because this thing is down a shitload already, and it feels like value-wise, like ETH down 80% was a good buy. 70% still looks okay. It's just TA-wise, not a good feeling. So on the monthly, not too good. On the weekly, however, it's still holding support. This is a pretty good support level. The question is, can it actually break out of this cluster, right? So whenever you have a cluster of support, like a box like here, right, and price moves into it, you want it to move out quickly, because if it doesn't, if it goes in and then goes like this, you always have to worry that the top of the cluster, because for me, most of the time, the top level and the bottom level, like when you have a fresh cluster, right, and you move into it, it's all support, right? But the longer you stay in it, this remains support, but this actually turns into resistance because it's gonna be a range, right? And in this instance, it stayed in it long enough that I'd be actually, like if I was in a trade from like 1.244, like as in support, I'd actually be worried that this is a range trade now, right? So it broke down and it went into this tight range. And in that range, you wouldn't want to bet on a range breakout to the upside because well, the move beforehand was one to the downside, and that doesn't really bode too well. So in this instance, it's holding support, but it's actually finding resistance on the top of the cluster, which is not the best. It doesn't really mean that it's bearish. It could still break out, and it's still an area that is interesting, but the longer it spends in there, the less I like it. So ETH still at support on the weekly. The monthly looks rather shitty to me, but the weekly still okay-ish, and on the daily there's nothing to write home about as well. It hit range high, still okay as long as it holds 1.2k here, but I'm just not gonna be involved. So my story today is gonna be one of just give it some time. Like if you want to trade like me anyway, you can obviously trade however you want to. I'm not going to tell anyone not to trade this, but for me, there's no trade to be done. Okay, let me see what you guys have been writing. 35k would be the analog to 2019 highs. Wait, like I said, I'm a little bit, as in like, you do like this, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I think it's just separate price action. This was an entire different story. I think if we break down here, right, let's talk about that eventuality real quick. I don't think it's like a 6k break. If you break down from 19k, I think it's gonna not do the 50% downwards. That would take it to like roughly 10k. I think if anything, if we break down here, it goes to 17, 16, maybe 15k, and then it just completely catapults to the upside. So like I wouldn't necessarily think that this is gonna fractal, right? So like this is this, and then the breakdown would be a fractal of this, and then you go like this because we did it here. I don't really think that's the cleanest one. I don't think that's gonna happen. If anything, I think if you hope for a breakdown, you want to be interested in like the 17, 16, 15k area. It's just the gut feeling. I'm gonna be buying there if it does break down, right? If it breaks down, I think it's gonna be a wipe more than anything. At these price levels, it's so cheap that I think people are gonna just step in before 14k, before 12k. Like 12k is really good support. 14k is monthly support, and I think people are gonna step in before that because you want to front run it. So if we break down, I think like a high 14k is the best you're gonna get if you're even going to get that, which I think makes the is this fractal to this question irrelevant, right? So and even like if we go up here, maybe we do something like this, but there's like COVID in here, which is a black swan. I wouldn't really factor this in, right? You could actually just say this basically, this is how price action has been. Like just ignore COVID, went like sideways here with an upward momentum and then just pushed outwards. So yeah, obviously COVID had a large impact on how this went, but TA wise, I would ignore it. Do you mainly trade against Bitcoin ETH pairs or USDT only? When do you choose one over the other? So with pairs, I look at Bitcoin and I look at USD pairs, and then I trade on the USD pair. because the USD pair is much more liquid, right? So like when you're trading altcoins, you can see that, I mean, this is not really an updated list. I look at other coins. But when, let's say like I look at Atom, right? You can almost always see that I have both in my list. And the reason is I look at this and I'm like, okay, is this gonna outperform Bitcoin? Right now, like it's near support, but it's like altcoins haven't been doing too well in general. And I think if you're gonna make a bet right now, it's gonna be on a Bitcoin solo run, if anything. I mean, there's a few altcoins that I would be comfortable with betting. XRP is one of them. Still really like it. I mean, it's mooning, giga mooning right now. Yeah, Bitcoin feels more comfy. So if I wanted to bet on a run, I would bet on a Bitcoin run and XRP. I think those are the two most interesting ones. There's a few other ones that I find interesting. I wrote in the newsletter about Link yesterday. That's actually been just outperforming as well. And there's like a few, but yeah. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, is Atom going to outperform Bitcoin or not? It's at support. I think I like the support better. So if it breaks down again and goes to this support, I will punt it again. And then I will look for range high again and maybe for continuation. So I look for this, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, this might become interesting really soon. And look at the USD pair and wait for a setup there, right? So for example, if we went down, maybe there's like an interesting trade to be had at 10 if Atom BTC goes down again, or if let's say Bitcoin breaks out and Atom USD goes up because of it, and then I look at the Bitcoin pair and Atom hits here, maybe I want to reallocate heavier into Atom and bet on this movement. So that's kind of how I look at these things, right? You can kind of just use whatever you're given. Use both pairs and then do your best with it. Usually works pretty well for altcoin trading. Can you check XRP USDT on the 1 hour? Love your stream deck. Reading from the Netherlands. No, not on the 1 hour. I can give you this. It's the weekly chart, right? It's at resistance right now, but like I said, like I think this is just the trade to be had. XRP is just really, really interesting just because of the narrative that it has. If they win the case, the case against the SEC, and they're very likely to win it at this point, it's just gonna have a big narrative, right? So as long as crypto doesn't break down, I think XRP is gonna be a good play. That's why I bought it at like around like 42, if I remember correctly, 42 point something, and or like 0.42 something, and I sold into that resistance because I was like, I don't like where Bitcoin's at, or like in general, like where the S&P closed. Now it's exactly where I sold it at, and I could see myself being mad at myself for having sold. Like I was right for a little bit, it nuked, and it's all the way back again, which is just a really good sign, right? When you have like a resistance get tested and it nukes and it comes straight back to resistance, that's a good sign, right? And if it breaks this resistance, I don't think 0.6 is too strong of a resistance. I think 0.9 is the more interesting one. So that's if crypto can stay afloat and if the S&P actually can hold. It's just a question of if that is the case, right? And the argument that you could make is that we still have 26 days for the monthly to close, right? So the monthly could run up all the way to like 4K before getting rejected again, and that would give crypto enough of room that you could have an XRP moon off of Bitcoin going a little bit up. So yeah. How is your Atom trade going? I closed that quite a while ago. So like Atom I traded, right? I bought here, it immediately went up. I sold it at 16, and then it broke down and I bought it at 13.9, so here, and then it broke down and I sold basically like at a loss somewhere around 13. So I made like a little bit of a loss, but I still like I take this as one trade. So I had no real reason to exit at 16. I was just like, okay, I don't like where crypto is at right now. That turned out to be correct. This was the merge, the ETH merge. that was the correct play, right? I got to rebuy cheaper, but I still wanted to have the same position, right? So I could have actually, like, there was no real reason for closing this trade. So I just reestablished here, but then I was like, okay, I don't like how everything is shaping out, especially on the altcoin front if the S&P is breaking down, right? So I closed it, took this off a loss, which is a tiny portion of the wins that I took on the upside. So it's going okay. I don't mind like trading like this. I could rebuy it cheaper than I sold it at. Obviously, it's pretty much exactly at the level again. But that is because, and this is something we talked about last week, that is because the S&P is bouncing, right? We talked about before the close, we talked about that I thought that the moment we closed below the support, we'd probably retest the resistance pretty quickly afterwards, and that's exactly what we're doing. And it's a little bit stronger than I thought it would be, which is a good sign for the bulls, I think. But I want to see it close above. The moment the S&P closes back above, I'm going to be risk on again, but I mean, that's going to be in 26 days. So until that happens, I'm just going to chill. On the altcoins, on Bitcoin front, I mean, I've made like a good portion. Like I made like 20%, a little bit more on Bitcoin, on XRP. I made quite a bit on ETH. I took it from 1K to 1.75. So that's like 60-70%. Obviously, like my average is a little bit higher than 1K, or was a little bit higher. I traded Atom. I made like 20-25% on the upswing, lost a few percent of that on the downswing again. I traded Cake, but basically closed that at break even. So like I bought it into like the rally, into this breakout attempt, right? You can see it on lower time frames. And it rallied pretty significantly, and then it dropped again, and I started selling not because of the Cake price action, because I still like the setup, right? So basically the setup is this. It's a resistance that's been tested too many times. I was like, okay, I'm betting on strength here because this is outperforming everything. It's like kind of like an ascending triangle, whatever you want to call it. I don't like the ascending triangle, but it's like a trend line that goes up into resistance, and that resistance been getting weaker, right? So the first test was followed by 3 red weeks. The second test was followed by 1 red week. The third test was followed by just barely a red week, which I mean just means that this resistance is running out of strength. That's why I liked it. But like I said, I'm not gonna risk anything on the trading side of things if the S&P closes below support. So that was like a few trades that I did. Cake didn't play out, so that was like a ±0. Atom made me a few. ETH made me quite a bit. I traded Solana, which was really lucky in this kind of move, like in this kind of upswing that we had. So I got it pretty close to 30, sold it at like 40-ish. That was a pretty good trade as well. But now, like, what am I gonna do, right? Like, I'm just looking at these charts and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? I can try to do the same trade again, right? But the same trade, like taking the same trade twice just makes me nervous because the support's been tested before. Now it's less ideal, right? You have like a really good support, you tested once. I don't mind just sticking my neck out, but on the second test, not as comfortable. So, like in this instance, it's just like, I'm just gonna let it go. I've had the trade the first way around. This looks like a smiley, which I like. But the first time, nice. Second time, you're not gonna get me to play it. I hope that makes sense. I mean, I've been more aggressive than I should have been, and now I'm gonna be as cautious as I should be, based on how the market is behaving. Any questions to that? Or like my altcoin strategy or any of the plays that I've made, why I've made them, whatever. So where would you buy Sol again? Somewhere like either like when it reclaims 26, 27, like at that point it looks like a bullish range more than anything, and I think it could easily walk back up. Or above 40 where I sold it. basically betting on, okay, I sold it here. I'm gonna get a good exit. I'm gonna get a good re-entry somewhere on the push up and then target 80 to 100, right? At that point, it also looks good. Or if I see a total collapse and I see Bitcoin hit support, I'm just gonna buy into that total collapse. I think Solana is a good buy on like when everything goes to shit, because there's actually like a few people that are interested in it, like a bigger people. So it's gonna bounce first because the bigger people are gonna allocate, and then you can sell it on the first bounce and get into like smaller things where retail is more involved, because they're gonna move slower. Are you in Link, Don? No, I like Link as a setup, but I'm not in it. So Link, the reason why I like Link is basically because we've had fake out here, right? Fake breakout, broke back down, went all the way back to the bottom of the range, bounced from the bottom of the range, ran back into resistance, and is now all the way back there. So it becomes really interesting above this like 8 level. It looks like it wants to push higher, and the next real resistance is either 12 or 16. However you want to see it, that's quite a move, right? From 8 to 12, that's 50%. From 8 to 16, pretty obvious, a double. That's pretty good trade, especially, and I don't know why the Link BTC pair isn't here, but like usually when I look for charts, right, I don't actually use this anymore, I just type it in. But especially given that Link BTC has been, let me draw this really quick, has been moving back into old ranges, and seems to be holding pretty strong. It's at resistance right now, but if it can break that, like both pairs are at resistance, but if it can like break those resistance on both pairs, there's quite the move to be had, right? So this was a fake breakout, didn't materialize, and then it went back down, showing some strength right now. And if it can come back up there, where's the next resistance? And the next resistance is all the way here, right? Which is quite the move. It's 60%, and then you have, like I told you guys, like there's a 50% to 100% move in this one. So like it's a nice move if it actually can break resistance. So I like Link just to look at it and to see if there's actually any strength, and it's been outperforming almost everything else. The best one still has obviously been XRP. So like if I had to rank it from setups, I like XRP the best. Then I like what I was talking about earlier. I don't dislike Atom still. I like Link a lot, and I like Cake a lot. I think like this basically: XRP, Link, Cake, Atom. But yeah, like I said, I'm not trading any of them right now. I closed my trades. I very well can see myself regretted on the XRP trade, because I think that's the only one where I'd be upset, because it's just such a clean trade. It's the only problem is, like I said, that the global markets basically aren't playing ball. And with the other ones, there's not really a clear narrative to be had, right? With XRP, there is. So I think if you're bullish on that, you can actually take the trade even without having everything aligning. So even with Bitcoin looking meh, with the S&P looking shit, and with ETH kind of being not that great either, I still think there's like the XRP play is valid. Everything else is a little bit risky. But yeah, XRP can and will go down as well. If Bitcoin breaks to 15K, you're going to see XRP like a mega red candle, because a lot of people are positioning for this, obviously. And they're going to lose their shit if Bitcoin goes down. And if Bitcoin goes down and we get an XRP nuke, I will buy 0.38-ish, like somewhere below 0.38 on like a wipeout would be what I would buy. Like I'd buy XRP first, Solana second, and Solana only because I think the first bounce is going to be nice, and then reallocate that Solana somewhere else if I get to. But that nuke never, like, it's not guaranteed, right? This is the thing in trading: when you're not certain, you're also like, when you don't know what's going to happen, you sit out, but that doesn't mean like it has to nuke or it has to go down. It can just go sideways. Anything can happen, right? And even if you're certain something is going to happen, the opposite obviously still can happen. It's not like it's guarantees. No one can give you a guarantee on anything in a market. Thesis, Don and Pintoshi like Link. I mean, that works. Will Solana be around in the next bull run? 99% of coins won't be. Yes, Solana will be around. Whether it's going to be in EOS, because EOS is basically, where is it? EOS been down only since the last bull market, right? So we had 2018 bull market. That was like the coin to trade back then, and it's been down only ever since. Solana could be the same, but it's definitely going to be around. Which trade was your worst percentage-wise on this upswing? I mean, the second Atom trade was a loss, so I'd say that one. Everything else was winning or break even. So yeah. Any other questions? Oh God, I'm so tired. This has been, it's a struggle. But still having fun. I mean, it's like talking market's always fun. It's just gotta be careful not to fall asleep. Do you still have the Bitcoin you bought in the first support test and are holding and were holding for a while? No, I sold that ages ago, actually. Like I shifted that out a long time ago. I just basically bought shitcoins instead, and that's been doing wonders for me. I don't have that. I don't have any position right now, like 0.0. I think maybe there's like some on wallets flying around, but I was actually like cleaning out, like I was cleaning house. I've been doing that from time to time, like older wallets where I'm like you look around and you just find like a bunch of ETH or a little bit of Bitcoin somewhere, and you're like, I didn't even know I had that. And it's kind of funny, but I did that like a couple weeks ago and finished like a couple days ago, just cleaning out addresses basically. Not because I'm particularly bearish, just because I wanted to have like, I didn't want to forget them. So I think I'm pretty close to no exposure, which obviously makes it easy to FOMO, right? You see like these kind of rallies, you want to FOMO. Maybe that's why my gut feeling is bullish, because the charts really don't look bullish. But I think a lot of other people are in the same position, right? That's what makes for bear market rallies, right? When people sell their stuff and then price goes up and people get FOMO, right? So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm always going to be bullish when I'm in position, like when I'm in bullish position, and always going to be like leaning bearish when I'm not. But that's just basically trading my book, or like talking my book, not trading. Talking my book, because anything else would not make sense, right? If I have like a bunch of Bitcoin and I'm talking bearish, doesn't really make too much sense. Solana to 14 possible? I have no idea. I wouldn't want to make any bets on downside. I like a little bit of a nuke into this like area. The 14 area looks nice, but it doesn't even have to happen, right? This is really good long-term support. We had a range here. We retraced the last half of the bull market. You don't want to be too bearish. I'm just not bullish. Like, it's not like I'm giga bearish, right? I'm just not bullish. It's a difference. If I'm giga bearish, I try to short. Obviously, I haven't been shorting in a while because it's quite tough to do so tax-wise recently anyway, for me. And I don't really enjoy it that much anymore. But when I'm super bearish, I want to short. I'm not super bearish. Might be leaning a little bit bearish, but not even close enough to take any short exposure. and but I'm just not bullish enough to buy. Can you please tell me why the S&P 500 is so important? Sure. So look at this. I mean, S&P or NASDAQ or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but let's actually look at the S&P, not the S&P, like this works. Because I can remove the drawings here. Okay, so look at the daily. Look at the daily here, right? Well, let's look at the weekly, it's cleaner because it's actually been quite a while since the top. But, so you have the high here of Bitcoin. The S&P made a high a little bit later. So this, like you see this, this is where the S&P made its high, its last one. And then S&P has been down only, right? But ever since then, like Bitcoin topped earlier than the S&P did. But I mean, you can look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is cleaner on the top part. But ever since then, you see like when I go over this, it shows over here, right? At the same time. So this is the 28th of March. This is the 28th of March, right? So that's the top. That's the top here. Then you had a bounce on like the next top on the 15th of August. Oh, wow, what a surprise. It's the top on Bitcoin as well. You had a bottom here on like, this was the leverage wipe, but it's actually like exactly like 13th of June. You have a bottom here at the 13th of June. You have a bottom here on the 26th of September. Guess where like Bitcoin bottomed a little bit later, but still same kind of story, right? You have a bounce here on the 14th of March. Guess where Bitcoin moved? 14th of March. I can obviously also show you like the correlation and how high it is. There's charts for that, but I think this is like the best visual. So you have a bounce here. You see this wick. Guess where that is? It's exactly at the low for Bitcoin. So if you think you're trading Bitcoin, you're really not. You're trading this thing. And it's the same, like you have a green candle here, the only green candle during the downturn. Guess where that was? Exactly at the high. So like, it really doesn't matter. Like right now, like I see a bunch of people do like TA on Bitcoin, which all obviously like it's behaving similar, and like to support resistances still work somewhat, but you need to have the S&P on your side, right? Because it's very, very clear what is driving the market, and that will change eventually, but it hasn't yet. And before it has changed, you don't want to get too crazy with it. So I hope that explains it. This is just like very nice visually. Every single bounce has been correlated with the S&P and been basically initiated by the S&P. It's not like the S&P is following Bitcoin. It's the other way around. So that is the answer for that. I hope that helps. Yo, it just arrived, so are we bullish? I'm not really, no. Not like I'm leaning bearish, but I'm not, like I don't have a strong feeling. Like my gut is bullish, my TA is very bearish, which makes me overall a little bit bearish, but I want to own stuff, but my TA is very bearish, so I will not. We are flat but can risk punt on Link, Cake and XRP. Yes, basically that. If you absolutely want to. Like I said, I'm not. I'm just not. Which is boring, obviously. Sorry for that. I want to be the exciting duck, but I'm just not right now. People have said that you're in fact a duck. Would you care to comment? I mean, you see my profile picture, and people on the internet don't lie, so it is what it is. Do you have a default stop loss methodology? Not really, no. I always look for, okay, where's my setup invalidated, and can I preemptively get out of the trade when I think it's going to be invalidated? Like, I'm not gonna sit there. Like, sometimes I'm sure you guys have had that before. You sit in a trade, even when you have like a static stop loss, right? You get into trade, like let's say something is trading at $10, you're targeting 15, you're entering at 10, and your stop loss is at 8, right? So that's your trade, and then price goes up, but you can see that it's really struggling and it's starting to like round back down, and then you get like good indication that it's actually gonna break down, and then people for some reason just sit there and do nothing, and then their stop losses hit, even though they're like very, very certain that it's actually gonna break down. If you have a good reason, like obviously if you're just like feeling it, like if it's just a gut feeling, you don't want to be just too reliant on it. But if you have good reason to exit the trade, you don't have to wait for your stop loss to be hit. You could just close it. Even in slight loss, like a lot of people I see take the trade and then they have really good reason to close the trade, and then they don't, and they run it into very, very big losses. It's obviously not the play to be made. So no, for me, it's just kind of like most of the time, if my setup gets invalidated, I get out. But my setup invalidation is oftentimes not price related, right? So for example, with my altcoin trades, I was like, I am willing to take all of these trades, and you can hear this in the explanations that I give. I'm willing to take all of these altcoin trades because the S&P is at support. So I have the S&P behind me. I don't mind risking a little bit. And then we got that close, and I was like, okay, well, this is invalidated now. I don't have that cover anymore, so I'm just gonna close it. Now, my feeling was still, and is still, that, for example, XRP is probably gonna go up, right? But my trade invalidation on the XRP trade and every single other altcoin trade was the S&P holding, and it didn't. And then I just closed. I closed in good profit on those positions. If it goes higher, oh well. I entered with like a few exit plans, right? And one of them was the S&P closing below support. And then the same, obviously, like there was like a price exit. So for like, you look at this, we had this breakout, we had a retest, and I was like, if we fall back into this range, as in if we lose 38, I'm gonna get out as well. So like I had a price invalidation, re-entering the old range, and I also had another invalidation which I like to have, which is the S&P breaking down, because that was the reason why I was comfortable enough to buy altcoins in the first place. Obviously, like I said, I could very well be very upset that I closed this position, but it's basically my rules. So like, it's not like I could do anything about it. I could not trade according to my rules, but I rarely do that. I only do it if I have high conviction, and I don't have that high conviction. And I don't have the screen time, right? So I've been on the road pretty much constantly. I'm only really at the computer to do these streams, which is good because otherwise, like, I wouldn't have enough time to even get the high time frames done. It's a good excuse to kind of check everything while I'm busy. But when you're not sitting in front of the computer, you cannot take those risks, right? Like if the S&P is at support, I'm like, okay, I can leave this for a week and not check. But if it's not, I'm just like, okay, I'm just not gonna risk it. Hope that makes sense. I mean, it's annoying sometimes. There's like trades to be had and I'm not at home, but also like life is kind of nice if you live it. And spending my days in front of the computer is not really living it. Duck, how is your new relationship going? Very excellent. Love it to death. Are you going to buy XRP before you go on vacation in November? Probably not. I don't want to be in position for anything in November, which kind of adds like, I don't want to trade this month because we had a shitty close in the S&P and I'm going to leave next month. So Probably just gonna be 2 months of no trading for me. I struggle with where to place stop losses when it isn't totally obvious. I mean, the reason why you want to be in the XRP trade, for example, is a range breakout, right? We broke the range, you get a retest, you're like, okay, if you get a close below back into the range, that's a very obvious stop loss, but it's a really good one. Because like trades should not, like when you have like a proper breakout, it shouldn't come back into the range. Never did here, so like you'd still be in the trade and you have like a really good entry if you were following it closely. And then like a hard stop loss would have just been this wick, right? This was the fake out before the move up. So this is like where you just let the market exit for you. Like this is where you just sell even if the candle hasn't closed, and this is where you sell when the candle has closed, right? So for example, like you have a move down here, but it's just like you still have like 10 hours in a day. There's a good chance it comes back up before the day closes, and that doesn't even come close to your hard stop loss. So you don't get out. But if it completely wipes and doesn't, like, this is not a panic wipe, but it's just like a, okay, the market is going to shit kind of wipe, then you just get out down here. Oftentimes like this stop loss I don't have anymore. I used to have it at the start, well, like when I was starting to trade and quite far into my trading career. Nowadays I don't have that anymore. I just close on like liquidity. Like I get something, like I get a bunch of buying and I bought this and I need to sell, I'm gonna sell into that. I don't want to have like a stop loss and then slip a bunch, and it's not gonna be fun, right? So for me, this is the main stop loss I have, and then I sell into bounces the moment and I feel like I'm invalidated. So there you go. But yeah, stop loss placement is really, really difficult. And as a beginner trader, you should have like an area where you just exit, because you don't want to hold your portfolio to zero. But that's the problem with leverage trades, is like you can't just lose everything. So you got to be a little bit more cautious. This is the nice thing about spot trading, that you don't get completely wiped. And even if it goes down, like if it goes down to like 30, there's going to be a bounce. Like let's say this broke to the downside and it just went in one candle to 30 or 33, there's going to be a bounce to 35 or something to exit. It's just almost always. So there you go. So do you think that the market may have overreacted to that Credit Suisse thing on Friday? Yes, I think that's basically where the rally comes from. A bunch of people just shorting into news that aren't really there. Like you short into a breakdown and you short into news that aren't really too relevant, and then you could just get these kind of squeezes on the traditional market anyway. Fun fact, his girlfriend is one of the people in this chat. I hope not. She's in the kitchen cooking right now. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, she might, but I don't think so. I prefer people that I know not to watch it. It just kind of feels odd. But I've had friends play this on fucking TV while partying, which is the worst. And, well, like they're partying in my apartment and they have me running on the big TV, and I'm like, oh god, this is not okay. What's she cooking? I actually don't know. I will join her in a bit and finish the meal, whatever it is. I'm excited for it though. Do you have a Discord group? No, nothing paid. This is all free. All of my content is free. You don't have to pay for anything. If anyone asks you for money, it's not me. So, guten Appetit. Thank you, man. Thank you. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we went over enough. Like I said, like my gut feeling is up. My TA is strongly down. So like whatever, my opinion doesn't really matter too much. I cannot do anything in that instance. So just go on your day, listen to someone else, or just chill for a bit, see how it goes. I don't want to say one way or the other right now. But yeah, that's it. Really appreciate you guys showing up, even in these kind of market conditions, because it's pretty tough right now. And yeah, big shout out to the sponsor of the show, which is FTX. Check out the links in the description. Really appreciate their support. And I wish you guys a really nice evening or morning for the Aussies. And love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.